Hey everybody. Um, I'm Romy Hill, and this is my semi-weekly live on Thursday, where I go over what's new and talk about my designs and techniques that I've shown in small reels on Instagram. And today is all about my new pattern, Egg Hunt, which is a sock pattern and it's customizable. And I think it's a lot of fun. It brought me a lot of joy when I was doing it, and I hope that you also enjoy it. So, hi, Marianne. It's nice to see you. Hi, Judy. Nice to see you. So, I have to warn you first that we are kind of in the middle of a spring storm right now, and the wind just started whistling. So, hopefully, nothing will happen to my service. Um, but you never know. So, I will I will do my best to get through. Mel, hi. How are you? Claire, hi. And Cynthia, Debbie, yay. It's so lovely to see you all. So first let's answer Judy's question. So my new sweater that's coming out, it's called Swoop Softly, and it is patterned after my swoop shawl. High dye. And it is coming out very soon. So when I was at a Verb for Keeping Warm for the Bay Area Yarn Crawl, I had my sample there. So the sample that I did took one skein each of even tinier Annapurna and frond. So the even tinier Annapurna is a light fingering weight that's got like 565 yards per skein. And frond, I think, is 459 yards per skein. So I designed the sweater especially so that some of the sizes, including the one that I was there with, would only use one skein of each. So I thought everybody that tried it on looked really good in it, and people tried it on. I would say the best measurements of the people who tried on that sample ranged from maybe between 32 to 54, I think maybe. And it obviously fit a little bit differently on everybody, but I thought it looked really good. So um, it's designed to have like an open front to it, and it has a slight flare in the back because it has some short row like little inserts in there that give it a little bit of an A-line in the back. So it's kind of short-ish, like it kind of hits sort of the top of your hips for an average size. I would say between some maybe between 5'4" and 5'7". It would hit your like the top of your hips. So it doesn't curve around your hips because it has that slight flare to it. So so if you're in that sort of area, then one skein each is all you're going to need of those two. So it does depend on having a super lightweight fabric. So I've seen some people talking about substituting alpaca if it's lace weight, like if it's that Surrey lace weight, like I think Labiana May has Little Kumo, she calls it, and it's lace weight. It's not the heavier one that's like 359 yards, I think, per 50 grams. And then Verb also actually has a different thing. I think it's cashmere and yak called Wild Bloom. And that is almost exactly the same yardage as frond. Frond is their silk mohair. So that would work really well too because it's a super light fabric. So hi Terry and another Judy. Um, Yay, hi Lucy. It's lovely to see you all. So you probably already know this, but at any rate, if you're in the chat, go ahead and ask me questions and I will answer them. And there is a delay. And because the weather is really funky, Probably there's a little bit more delay than usual because my software automatically will buffer extra so that there will be a smooth stream to you. So, but I promise I will get there. So, and while we're talking about a verb for keeping warm and all of that, today, today's April 4th. So Christina Verb put the mystery kits up for a tiny short extra time so that if you did not grab one, if you didn't get one of those, there are mystery shawl kits up today on a verb for keeping warm. And if you just go to their website, that's a verb for keeping warm.com, and search for Romi, you will see the mystery kits. They'll pop right up for you. And afterwards, I'll put the link in the notes. So, so on to the socks. So if you know me, I'm not a huge sock knitter just because I don't like socks. I don't like wearing them. I like bare feet. Or I'm either like flip-flop or a boot kind of gal. So I don't usually do socks, but I have to say these were really fun and I enjoyed them a lot. So here they are. So I just did these with like stuff I had in stash. So I have all of these little tiny pieces of fingering weight yarn in stash from Miss Babs because she does these beautiful packs of super beautiful, colorful, lovely fingering weight yarns. And this is all yummy two ply because I've been using Miss Babs yarn for a long time. So that means I have a huge, like, I have a big bag filled with little leftovers from all the stuff that I've done with her yarns. So, so I just kind of jumped into my bag, and as I was doing them, I was thinking, these really look like Easter eggs to me. So, hence the name, Egg Hunt. So since I didn't have like an pattern egg hunt this year, I thought, hmm, gotta have just one last little egg hunt thing. So that's um, that's how they got their name. They look all Easter eggy. And I also forgot, a bunch of you asked me what the shoes are in the pictures that I had of the pattern. They're piccolinos. So here's the shoe. Like these are fairly old. I got them on a super sale a long time ago, so I don't know if they still make those, but they that's them. They're slightly too small for me, so they're basically relegated to being like little photo props at this point because I couldn't resist them. When I saw them, I was just like, okay, I have to have them. So, so yeah, they're piccolinos, which is Piccolinos, piccolinos, and they are made in Spain. And they have adorable shoes. I love their shoes. They're so cute. And I love the sole of these. They're so much fun. But yeah, I rarely ever wear them. So they're just relegated to photo shoots right now. Okay, so um, these these were because two of my moderators, Kathleen and Wendy, and especially Kathleen, kept asking me to do some socks. So that was sort of that was the kind of little idea behind these was Kathleen inspired me. And so even though I'm not a huge sock knitter, I knew that they were having lots of fun doing them. So here they are. And they do have lots of fun techniques. So so I'm going to get into those. So they start with a Turkish cast on, and I like to use two circular needles. but I know lots of people like to use magic loop. If you like to use double pointed needles, totally get that. The Turkish cast on is a little difficult to do on double pointed needles. So I suggest if you're going to use DPNs that you start out with either two circs or magic loop. So I'm going to show you that. And then what I really found relaxing about these is that they have a little color switching scheme in here that makes the jog of colors less pronounced. So usually when you're doing stripes on something in the round, you're going to get that little jog because you're not your rounds aren't really meeting together. It's a spiral. So every time you switch the colors in that little spiral, you get like just a little jog there. So there are all sorts of different ways to deal with jogless joins and make them look really pretty. And I did actually write some into some of my patterns. But the thing about them is that when you use that type of technique, the first stitch of your round is going to move. So this is like the lazy person's way to disguise the jog. So it's not as joggy. And it just involves slip stitches and it gives it kind of a cool texture too. So I have to admit to you before we talk about this, I have not woven my ends into these, so I'm embarrassed, but what can I say? It happens. So I will show you these up close. So one of the things I do when I weave in ends is I take care of any little pieces in there, like where the knitting doesn't look perfect or something like that. So when you look at these, you're going to notice that they don't look exactly perfect. So which hurts my little um, control freak heart, but oh well, that's life. So let me transition over to my hands here. Okay, so here you can see um, the color, the change in color here. And it's just a slip stitch pattern in there. And the slip stitch pattern sort of just camouflages where the beginning of the round is. So you can still kind of see, like when I go to weave in my ends, for instance, I'll clean this part up here. Um, but you can see in here that it's not as obvious as it would be if there were no slip stitch pattern. And this one I actually did weave in. So you can see up here, you can't really tell that that's the beginning of the round. So that was what I was after because I didn't want to move the beginning of the round. Like I didn't want to move any stitches around. I wanted to keep my beginning of the round regular, like where it's supposed to be, because it's just much easier to do socks that way. So I'm going to show you that one, that technique. It's very, very simple. There's not much to show there. And then also, I'm going to show you how I like to do my ribbing so that it's neat and tidy here. And this has a sewn bind off. So you can see up here at the top. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that sewn bind off and how to set up for it because this is 2x2 ribbing. So before doing the sewn bind off, this is set up as 1x1 ribbing in the last row up here before it's sewn. So I'm going to go over that too. And this is not a tubular sewn bind off. This is just a ribbed sewn bind off. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that too, like what the difference is, why this isn't tubular and why other things are tubular. So that's what's happening today. Okay. So let's take a look at the pattern. So the pattern is written um, just for two colors. And that is because I wanted you to feel free to use as many colors as you wanted. So the pattern is actually written though for, so this whole area of the sock along here, this is all one color. That is the color one. I think I used, it's master color, sorry. This is the master color. So including all of the ribbing all the way down here to the toe is the contrast color, and the heel is a contrast color. So the heel actually starts in the middle of a round here. So the instructions in this pattern have you slipping some stitches of the master color so you can start this different colored heel. And so then for the rest of it, just play. Like get whatever colors you want and whatever makes you feel good, and just play with them. And I suggest before you do that, that you lay them out in the order that they're going to fall and see if you like that. The other thing I did when I laid these out to do, I wanted to see, like, I wanted my two ribbing to look nice together. Um, So I got two colors that I liked um, to go together as ribbing. So that's my suggestion for colors. Of course, you can do these in just two colors as well if you um, do not want to do like the super crazy, lots of color type of project. Okay, let me set these aside. And just before, okay, so in the pattern, I have this little area here that has the color change round. So every time you do that, you're just going to be slipping a stitch and knitting a stitch. So that is basically it. And on my socks, when I did mine, I did, I alternated them so that the stripes have this, like, I don't know, when I only do like one row in between, they look like little stars or something like that. So that's how the stripes look. Um, so I alternated those up in the gusset here. Um, you can do it really however you want. I changed colors on the non-shaping rows, but my test knitters did them on the shaping rows. And when I changed and I did the shaping, I just tied the two colors together on the back, so it would be easier to do a make one. So however you want to do it and however it looks good to you, um, that's how you should do it. Okay, so let us start with a Turkish cast on. So, and also there are zero charts in this, which I know is unusual for me. Um, oh, and actually, I am also going to show you how to do a German short row. I forgot about that, but yeah, I'm going to show you how to do a German short row as well. Um, those are for the heel. It has a short row heel. So, hang on, let me bring this back so you can look at what the short row heel looks like. So right in this area here, where you're turning the heel, these are short rows. And also the heel is reinforced. So hi Terry, two Terrys, yay. So right in here, that heel flap part here, it's not really a heel flap because it's toe up. So you're not picking up any stitches. What you're doing is increasing gusset stitches across here, and then you're decreasing them out to bring the heel around. And this whole back of your heel here is reinforced. And right down at this point right here, these are the German short rows. So Claire, they're really fun. I actually I've never designed a toe-up sock before. So and I really like them actually. So I'm now like my the jury's out. I like them. I like them both. So I do actually think toe up is more fun to do than down. Like I just think it's you get to do more fun things. So I think I actually prefer knitting them. And I'm not a connoisseur of the fit as much as other people are, because I don't wear lots of socks. So I don't want to say like, oh, this fits so much better for hiking and or whatever like that, because I don't really like when I hike or do something like that, I don't want to wear my beautiful hand knit socks. So, okay. But I think they're so much fun. So I'm going to show you first the Turkish cast on, and this is just with two circular needles. How I this is how I do it. Um, and this is obviously a larger yarn. So so Mel says, "Oh, the stretchy bind off is easier than the stretchy cast on." Yeah, I could see that. Definitely. Um, definitely. So, though I do have to say, if you are going to do a sewn bind off, you should probably check as you go along to make sure that it is stretchy enough. And I learned that the hard way. Um, it's you need it stretchier than you think you do. So here is my Turkish cast on. This is with two circular needles. And I love this cast on. I think it is so handy for so many things. So I am going to cast on 16 stitches. And I this is just a kind of a sacrificial slip knot here. It's only to hold it on the needle while we're casting on. So for 16 stitches, when we're going in the round, that means I'm going to wrap my needles 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have them wrapped 8 times. So 8 stitches on the top, 8 stitches on the bottom. And now I am going to turn this around so that the needles are pointing to the right. And I still have my yarn held to the back here. So I am a continental knitter, but I will show you what this looks like afterwards in English style. So for whichever style you knit, you're going to pull the bottom needle through so that the stitches are on the top needle, but they're on the bottom cable. And then you are going to work with just that top needle. So here's one side of it, and then the other side is what you're going to knit your stitches with. So I am going to knit 8 across the top here. And this is going to seem like it's really loose here, and that is just because the stitches are wrapped around this cable instead of being on another needle. So if I were going to do that English style, I would just be knitting normally as well. So nothing really out of the ordinary. So I'm just going to knit those 8 stitches across the top. Okay, so now I've gotten to the end of this top needle here, and I want to turn the corner because I'm going to go around here. So this bottom needle is going to come through the stitches so that the stitches are on the cable, and then the top needle here with this blue cable, I'm going to back this up so that I get my stitches onto my needle instead of on the cable. So at this point, you can see here's that little slip knot there that we used before just to keep the stitches on the needle. So I am going to pop that right off So it's helpful here to keep attention on that yarn because that can kind of pop loose there. So now I'm going to take my needle here and just start knitting across. So this is going to look a little loose, but I'm just going to pull my slip knot out and tug that, and that is not going to be a problem anymore. So one thing to remember about this cast on is that whereas most cast-ons, your tail is going to be at the beginning of the row or round, that is not the case for this cast-on. So we have just knit one round here, and the tail is in the middle. So this tail is just kind of hanging out right in the middle of the stitches there. And this is the actual start of the round right here. So when I'm working on socks or anything like that, I'm always going to put just a pin in the fabric here so I can remember where I am. And it reminds me when I look again that that's actually not where the beginning of the round is. Okay, so at this point, you can just start working in the round. And in the shaping here, I'm going to knit 2 stitches. So I'm going to do a make one right. And the make one right is generally more difficult than make one left. So in fact, I hear lots of people remember make one right as make one right is wrong because it feels wrong if you have a hard time remembering. So it's gonna I'm going to put my the bar up in on my needle, the bar between stitches, and I need to knit this through the front, and that's going to twist the stitch. So this is what I usually do. Like I come around the back here and sort of pull that so I have a way to get my needle through there. Otherwise, it's pretty tough to get it through. So that's my make one right. You can test yourself by looking at the base here, and a make one right will go, this little bar here goes to the right. So you can see it pointing off to the right here. And now work to the end and 2 stitches before the end. I'm going to do a make one left, which is so much easier. And then you can see at the end here that that little bar, the twist there is pointing to the left. So you can catch yourself that way. So I have 2 stitches increased. So I am going to show you how to do this as a magic loop now. So let me take this out and I'm going to show you the magic loop. Okay. So with a magic loop, you are going to want to have a longer circular needle. So this is a way to use only one circular needle. Like if you don't have tons and tons of needles, like I have them all over the place, but I still sometimes use magic loop. So this is going to help, for instance, if you're a newer knitter and you have not collected gazillions of of needles, or if you don't want to collect gazillions of needles. Okay. So Mel, Caroline is awesome. I tend not to say where to pick the strand up from because I don't always do it the same way, and I'm pretty sure other people don't always do it the same way. So I know that the moment I said pick it up from the rear, I would pick it up from the front. And then I'd just be like, what on earth did I do? This is not a make one right. So I tend to remember it in a different way. But if you do it the same way all the time, like you were very impressive. And if that works, that's awesome. So, so Cynthia, also, you were just saying you couldn't get the hang of them. So I'm going to show you German short rows. And then also, since you were saying that, I don't think I do actually have a short row class. I'm not sure if I'm teaching it though at Vogue Knitting the next time someone else is teaching short rows. Vogue Knitting Live has some classes. There may be a short row class. I will check into it. But let me know meanwhile if there's anything I can do to help. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing um, that pretty much that I did before, except this time I'm just going to be using these two needle tips and this long cable. So I'm just going to wrap 8 times, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. So I'm going to turn it around here. And this time, this is one side of my cable. This is the other side of my cable. I'm going to still going to pull that bottom one so that the stitches are on the bottom cable here. And I'm going to use this needle to knit across the top. So I will show you English this time. Okay. So the first one can be a little fiddly here, especially if you're a terrible knitter, English knitter like I am. So you just want to give it a little tug, and then you can get that going better. So hopefully you don't laugh too much at my English knitting. I actually used to knit English style, and when I started knitting continental, I promptly forgot the muscle memory, like my muscles stopped remembering how to do it that way. So yeah, okay. So that is across the top here. So now I'm going to turn again. You can see where we are. Um, Now the ones that I just knit are along the bottom, and then along the top are the ones that need to be knit. So I pulled the bottom needle through, so everything was on the cable. And now I put my top needle in, and we are right here at that little knot. I'm gonna pull that off and grab my working yarn here. And I like to tension this sometimes as well when I go around the corner. And just go across the top here. So the big thing about knitting magic loop is keeping your stitches split up properly. So that's what helps me, is just to keep them, like if you're doing a sock or something like that, you keep half on the top and half on the bottom here. And always keep that loop in the same place. So let's see. So yay. I love that the fastest knitter, English knitter you know, had a weird style. That makes me happier. Okay. So let's just go along here. I'm actually not going to do any shaping here. I'm going to show you the color change and basically what I have done, what I did when I changed colors. So when you're using two circs or even like doing DPNs or whatever you're using, whenever you switch to the next needle, you want to give it a little tug here to make sure that you don't leave a space open. It will, otherwise it will tend to ladder. So you don't want that to happen. You don't want a ladder there. And I am going to mark right here where I am, just to make sure I remember that is the start of my round. Okay. So I was a little bit at sixes and sevens here. Um, I couldn't get service when I first was kind of testing the stream and everything. Um, so Elise asked, what type of heel does this have? It has a German short row heel. And I will show you how to do the German short row heel. I'm just going to knit a little bit till I get to the place where I can switch colors. I think I'm actually going to have to grab some yarn because I ran over here to start my live and I left a bunch of the stuff that I need to use on my live over on my other table, of course. So embarrassing. Sigh. Okay, let me do this. And I'm just gonna run over and grab my stuff so you can look at my little tiny thingamajiggy there for just a sec. And you can still hear me talking. I will still blather on while I'm getting my stuff over here. So embarrassing. Okay, so here I am back. Thankfully, it's not like a giant studio or anything like that. So it wasn't too bad. Okay. So to switch colors in here, super simple. I'm just going to start with my other color here and use my color change round. The first method one is knit one. So I'm just going to, I just start knitting here and I deal with this one hanging down later. And I'm going to knit one, slip one. So when I slip one, I like to spread my stitches out so that I don't pull in. Otherwise, if you pull in hard, you're going to get a change in gauge, and you don't want that to happen. Oops. So I should probably slip stitches if I am actually going to do a knit one, slip one, wouldn't you say? Okay. So slip one, knit one, slip one. So that's across just that part. I'm going to turn this around. So when you're going from one side to the other on this, I have found that at least for me, it's easy for me to mess this up and make it a little bit too loose. So I don't really do anything special here. Like I don't spread my stitches out very much, and I also don't give it a yank or anything when I'm slipping stitches. Okay. And then that last one is slipped. So at this point, just to make this easier for myself, I generally come over here, I take my starting tail here and my ending tail from the yarn that I'm no longer using and just tie them together. Um, and I just tie them in a little bow so nothing slips out. So I have later on, I have that yarn there so I can undo the knot and weave it in. Okay, so once that initial round is done, then I am going to start on my first round of the new color. So that's what it looks in like in larger yarn. This is for fingering weight. The socks are for fingering weight. And I did not break any of my yarn, although I did on my actual sample, I did actually break the yarn in between stripes. So there we go with that. And I'm just going to do a little bit more on this. I am actually going to cut my blue yarn and show you some German short rows. I need a little bit more stitches, like a little bit more knitting on here to make this look better. Okay, let's see. So usually, so Mel, when I have to take stuff with me, um, I lay it all out on the floor in little piles to make sure that I don't leave any of it behind. And but if I'm like walking across my studio, then I am just like, oh, everything's here. It's just fine. And yeah, sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. Okay. So no more snow flurries now. So that's good. Just wind. Okay. All right. So let's take a little bit of a look at German short rows. So this is the heel is a German short row. So I'll show you right here. This is the line of German short rows right across the heel here. And here's the heel flap. Okay, so to do a German short row, you are going to knit up to the stitch that where you are going to turn your work. So this is ceasing to be completely in the round at this point when you're going back and forth doing the short rows. So you're going to have your yarn hanging in the front here, and you're going to slip your stitch with the yarn still hanging down. And now you're going to take your working yarn and pull it over the top of your needle here. So you can see at the base of the stitch is now deformed and it's making two legs. Like you're getting this little interlocking thing happening here. So this is a double stitch. And then once it's over on the other side, the yarn is over on the other side, you're going to bring it forward again through your needles and back into position to purl. So when I'm on the purl side like this and doing a German short row, I tend to yank this a little bit more. I like them to be a little bit tighter so I don't have a little sloppy thing happening there. Okay, so now Going to do another one. So let me turn this over. Okay, so this time, since I'm on the knit side, my yarn is at the back. I'm going to bring it into the front here and slip the stitch, and the yarn is still in front of my needle. And now I'm going to pull it over the top again. So this side I don't pull quite as much. And when you're doing it, you'll notice that it doesn't feel like it can be pulled as much here, so I don't fight it. So now my yarn is in the back here, and I am again ready to knit across. So over here, you can see I have this double stitch right here. So for the heel, I'm going to be lining up those double stitches. And then at the end, they're going to be all worked across. And that's what turns your heel. So let me slip that. And then over the top and back to the front here. And I'm going to purl across. And on this pattern, you're going to have your little double stitches all in a line. And now we're going to do another one right over the top here. So you can see these are lining up. Okay. To work your double stitches, you are going to go right through the center here so that there are two legs on either side, like right through the center, like it's one stitch. And see this right here, you have to make sure that that gets worked together with this one so that it doesn't create a hole. Okay, so that's those double stitches worked. Now I'm going to go back the other way. So let's see, Cynthia says, she says she gets a hole. So it may be that you're not tightening them enough, possibly. Okay. So here we are we're back to another double stitch. I'm going to purl those two legs together like that as though it's just one stitch. So my needle goes right through the center. And you're going to see here it looks like a little double purl bump. Okay, so you can, it's like a little teeny tiny itty bitty heel. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Tiny, tiny, tiny little heel, like a little mouse heel. Okay, so I also set up the end here. Okay, so these are 2x2 ribbing. And I used fingering weight yarn here because I sort of modified my usual sewn bind off for the lighter yarn because I thought it was easier to use it this way. So let me show you first how I do my neat 2x2 ribbing. I use an Eastern purl on my first, so let me get this out of the way. On my first purl right after a knit column. So in the round, this is what that looks like. So I'm going to knit as usual, and I really yanked that down. Knit one, and you can see here my purl stitch here is mounted with my right leg in back and my left leg in front. That is because I've been using an Eastern purl on it. So I'm going to bring my yarn forward and I have to purl through the back loop in order to work this. so that I'm not twisting it. So an Eastern purl, my needle is going to come over the top to grab my yarn, and it mounts with the right leg and back. My next column is a Western purl because I want it to be tidy up next to the knit column. So knit, knit. Okay, so if I were going to do this English style, still purl through the back loop, comes around and under. That's the Eastern, and then Western is over the top of the needle. And you can see here they're mounted differently. So just remember where everything is mounted so you don't get any twisted stitches that you didn't want. And over the top here, but it really does tidy up the ribbing really nicely. Okay, so to do a sewn bind off, I've never been able to find a sewn bind off or invent one, and I have actually tried where you can just keep the 2x2 or anything other than a 1x1 rib. So to do a sewn bind off, you need to reposition. So that is what I'm going to do now. And since this is really small, I have tended, I don't really like to use a cable needle because I think they're kind of a pain, but I have been using these little tiny markers, and it's really helpful. So this is also in the back of your pattern. So if you take a look at the back, you'll see that there's this glossary here that shows you how to do this whole bind off. So if that can jog your memory after you watch this one. Okay, so what I'm doing on this row right here is I'm going to reposition these stitches, and I'm going to do one row of 1x1 ribbing. So this is not a tubular bind off, and remember I was talking about how it sometimes can be, when you're doing a sewn bind off, it can be a little difficult because it's not stretchy enough. So the first time I did this, I put on a tubular bind off. And so for a tubular, what you do is you're going to do 2 rows basically of tubular ribbing. So that would be like a knit one, slip one with yarn in front, knit one, slip one with yarn in front. And then on the next round, you would do slip one with yarn in back, purl one, slip one with yarn in back. So that it's basically 2 rows of ribbing, but it's called tubular. So that's what makes it tubular. On this, I think that actually made it a little bit tighter with the small needles. So on this one, it's just a plain sewn bind off. So my setup round here is a 1x1 ribbing. So I'm taking it from a 2x2 to a 1x1 so I can do a sewn bind off. So I'm just going to start over here at the edge. I'm not going to be slipping any stitches. I'm going to do a knit one. So here you can see there's another knit stitch there. So I actually don't want that to be a knit stitch. So I'm going to take that off and hold it. And I'm going to purl one. So I'm setting these all up so that they have a Western mount. So that is with the right leg in front and the left leg in back. Now I'm just going to stick this back on my needle and knit one. So this is all going to be knit one, purl one all the way around. So every time I come to that little stitch that needs to move, I'm always going to move the knit stitch in front because purl stitches, when they're crossing over, look messy. So that knit stitch always has to cross over in front to make it look neater. And this is going to set you up for the bind off round, which is going to be sewn. So you can actually do this without a stitch marker or a cable needle or anything like that, but the yarn is so small and the needles are so small that I think it adds an unnecessary level of difficulty to it. I think it just makes it difficult for no reason. So these little tiny stitch markers work great as little teeny tiny cable needles. Okay. And it looks a little funky at first, but so that's what it looks like so far. I'm going to turn this around. So I ended with a purl stitch. So over here, I'm going to start with a knit stitch. Trying not to get my needles messed up here. Okay. So if you were going to do this as a tubular bind off, you would be slipping the purl stitches instead of working them. And you can do that. It looks very nice. It's like the same process, but I just wanted this to be a little bit looser than what I got with a tubular bind off. Because you want to be able to slip your bind off over your heel without like cutting off the circulation or anything like that. Okay. So this can also be used. This idea is also used when you want to cast on for 2x2 ribbing and you want to do a tubular cast on or just a plain Italian cast on. This is how you reorganize your stitches to have 2x2 ribbing. And if anybody out there knows of any type of sewn bind off or anything like that, where the stitches are not reorganized like this, let me know because somebody actually said there was one and I have never been able to find it. So yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So everything is reorganized. So when I do the sewn bind off, I know they usually people will say 3 times the width or circumference of your piece. I actually leave more yarn because I don't like to get nervous about it in the middle of binding off. So I use a little extra yarn. Let me grab my needle here. So I use a blunt tapestry needle. This is kind of small to find my littlest one. Okay, there we go. I have all these different ones hanging out. Okay, so there is my small tapestry needle. And I am going to thread my tapestry needle. So some people, I think, don't do the bind off, the sewn bind off this way. They move the stitches to a different needle and then like do a grafting type of bind off, and that is totally fine if you prefer that. This is just how I do it. So yeah, so don't worry about it. Okay, so this is a little bit different from my other one that I've used in other patterns in here. And that is because this yarn is really thin. The needles are very thin. I don't want to pop anything off of the needle without sewing it first like I usually do. So let me put my yarn up here. I'm going to slip my first knit stitch here to the end of the round. I'm going to keep that stitch just sort of right there for now. It's just going to stay right there. Okay. Now I'm going to take my my needle here, and this is a purl stitch now. I'm going to put my needle through that purl stitch as if to knit. And I'm always going to pull it kind of up and away from the needle. Okay, so now I'm going to, this is my needle, my stitch that I slipped. I want to grab the left leg of the stitch that I slipped here from going from front to back. And then I'm going to grab the right leg of the stitch on the other side of that purl stitch right there and pull my needle through. Okay, so now that I have dealt with that stitch, I'm just going to stick it back with the other stitches so it won't fall off. And I am going to pull my yarn up. So that's my first part. And now I'm going to go from right to left through that purl stitch again. So I'm always going to pull the yarn straight up. Okay, so this purl stitch is going to come off of my needle here. Now I'm going to take my tapestry needle and put it in between these two first stitches to take my yarn to the front here. Once that's done, I am going to insert my tapestry needle as if to knit through that purl stitch, the second stitch on my needle. So once I've done that, I'm going to insert my tapestry needle as if to knit through this first knit stitch, pull it off my needle, and bring my needle forward and through that other knit stitch on the other side of my purl stitch. So that's the part that's a little bit different from what I have been doing before. And that is just to make it easier with this little tiny, tiny yarn. Okay, so you can see it's starting to go over the top there. Now that is going to come off of my needle. I'm going to keep that knit on the needle. My yarn is going to go to the back. Needle is going to come up between the two stitches and then knitwise through that second stitch, which is the purl. So the purl stitch always gets worked twice. And then this is the little fun part where this goes off and then through that next stitch. And the purl stitch gets worked again. So as you're going, definitely make sure that this is stretching properly, because you do not want to get all the way around and find that it is too tight. And this may use more yarn than you think. So that's another really good reason to have more yarn in there so you don't play yarn chicken at the end. So it becomes really rhythmic after a while. So I just make sure I'm stretching it out. Even though it seems like you would want to go from front to back here, you definitely don't. You want to go from back to front. And then back through that purl stitch. And you're going to take that knit stitch off. Okay. And as I'm going, I am just making doubly sure that this is stretching. So it's got a good stretch to it. Okay. Is there any particular part of this that anyone would like me to go slower on, or so you can see it better? Because I can do that. I could actually do it closer up too if you prefer. Okay. And I always suggest when you're doing this, don't get in a huge hurry, because I have found that every time I get really cocky, I mess it up. Stretch, stretch. Basically, this is a lot like grafting, um, but yeah. Okay, so when you're turning the corners, it can get a little weird. Okay, so I'm just gonna come over here, bring this through. I'm gonna keep that away. Okay. Alrighty. And also, Cynthia, I do at least 5 times the width too. Always. If you do actually end up, like if you're doing this on a sweater or something like that, you can actually start with less yarn, and then in the middle, you're just going to attach some more yarn with maybe like a spit splice, or you can use a Russian join. And I have done that before, and you can't really tell at the end. So, because sometimes, like if you're doing this on a big sweater or something like that, it just gets so long, and it's really kind of a pain. Very difficult. It tangles up. Okay. So I was gonna hurry the rest of this, but I feel like if I do that, I'll probably mess it up. Okay. So let's get to the end here. So again, I was mentioning that this is not actually a tubular sewn bind off because there aren't any tubular rows in here, but the bind off does give you that sort of Same look to it, and I like it. Um, if you do a tubular bind off with this, I actually think it looks really nice with the 2x2 ribbing. Okay. So sometimes it's, I guess, kind of simple to get, it's easy to get sort of lost in here. I try not to get lost while I'm live. That is so embarrassing. I actually, when I used to do this, when I first started teaching this in class, I would get so nervous doing this that I had to print out like this giant sheet of instructions to make sure that I didn't get so nervous that I forgot what I was doing. So that's my little confession for today. But I've gotten less nervous over the years, so that's good. Okay, so we're almost there and almost to the end here. So the end is always a little weird because that end part always gets stretched out. So if something doesn't work, I definitely suggest playing around and seeing what works the best for your knitting. So I'm going to show you what works the best for mine. And it doesn't always, nothing always works for everybody. Okay, so here we are. We're right at the end. You can see this is the first knit stitch here. So I'm about to close this up. So that's my last purl stitch and my last knit stitch, and I'm going to kind of close that up. So for me, I like to go on the other side of this last knit stitch. So here's my yarn. I've just gone from front, or it's from back to front through right beside that last knit stitch. And brought it through. Oops, didn't mean to bring it through right there. Okay, I've just brought it through and now I'm going to pull it over the top. So I basically, I went from back to front. So it's sticking out the front here. And now I'm just going to pull it over the top. So when I pull it over the top, I like to weave it in through this ribbing right here so I can kind of hide the end. And I just go back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over. And so that is what it looks like at the end here. That is what it, so some of these it looks a little off if you're used to seeing a sewn bind off that's coming straight from 1x1 ribbing. But I think it looks really, I think it looks really nice. I like it. And it's super stretchy this way. So as long as you're going along and you're making sure that everything is stretchy, it will be nice and stretchy. So The one thing that you might get is like these little stitches looking like they're sort of mangled. You can just pull on that, and then when you block it, just kind of stretch it out, give it a little thwack, and it will block really nicely. So now I have a little tiny envelope. I should probably put something in it, I suppose, or maybe I could make like a little hat. So now I guess I have to design an animal for this to be for that, to wear that as a hat. Hmm. So there you have it. That's a rundown of all of the techniques in my egg hunt socks. So I don't think I missed anything, although sometimes later on I missed something. Wow, that was quite a gust of wind. I don't know if you could hear that, but it was like, whoa. Whoa. Um, yeah, so thank you, Claire. So yeah, so hopefully that will help. If you like could, I know exactly, Mel, tiny hat. Maybe it's like it needs to go on maybe, I don't know, something. It's a thumb hat. That's it. It's a thumb hat. So, okay. You did hear it? Oh my gosh. It was so loud. So anyway, so I am so excited because I did not lose service through this whole thing. So I am going to call that a win. And if you have any questions or anything about any of the techniques in here, really happy to make another video. Or when I have a moment, I am actually going to do a video of this bind off. Like I have a very long to do list right now, but I will do it. So, oh yeah, a bottle, a chef's hat for a mouse. I like that. Yeah, I like it. So obviously I have to do a mouse or something, huh? Okay, another thing on my to-do list. So thank you all so much for joining me. And you can find me on obviously on YouTube, Instagram at Romi Designs, Facebook, Ravelry Romi. And I'm on Threads too, though not as much really. Like there's just so many social media platforms out there, I don't even know what to do. So if you have any questions or anything, let me know, and I can do like a little Instagram reel in the interim because I will actually be editing all the footage I have to make all of my tiny tutorials. So they will be up. It's just that there's a kind of a lot going on right now. And then also, don't forget today, April 4th, last day, like it was a sort of a little special comeback for the kits at a Verb for Keeping Warm for my mystery shawl. And the two shawls behind me are both mystery shawls. So this one is April's Song, and this one is Red Rock Canyon, and they're both past mystery shawls. And so I do actually have a Ravelry bundle of mystery shawls if you have never done one and you would like to see what they look like. The one this year is going to be a shallow crescent, and it will look very good with its siblings. So I try to kind of stay in the it like the overall design is a surprise, but I don't do crazy things like crazy no crazy shapes, no crazy anything, just because I don't want to surprise you that much. So you can rest assured that they will the design will fit in with the past ones because I know it's a leap of faith to do a mystery shawl. So I want you to enjoy the process. So thank you again for joining me. Please like and subscribe. I would be so grateful. And it was lovely seeing you all. Um, so I love seeing you in the chat. So thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with me. And I will, I Well, I think I will actually. I will see you next week. So take care, everybody. Bye bye.